Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here again for another edition of Oilers Live Tuesday night. Got a guest from Straight Off the Pipe podcast. You find them on Sundays. Mr. Dash in the Park. Hey, Dash, how you doing?
I'm as good as I can be, given my hopes and dreams continue to be dashed, and I have to keep continuing to scrape myself up off the floor after I smash my head against the panic button. Michael, how are you?
Well, I'm doing all right. I kind of I kind of think about these things sometimes, and I wish, we were just doing regular media, where you're not supposed to be the fan of a team. So that there's no, you've got nothing invested in it. Like, you just kind of, you don't care, right? Like, but I do care. And it sucks. I mean, tonight hurts like most nights when we lose, but, I don't know. I mean, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about a lot of things tonight. I want to go. So I've got a couple things I'd like to talk about. And one of them, of course, is I'd just like to go through and kind of give some player grades tonight because, there are some players came to play. And in fact, overall, I thought the Oilers, this was one of those moral victory type of games, except for the fact that, and I can't, now I'm lost as to who said, I think it was Fogle or maybe Sevier said it Postgame in the Oilers presser, you just give away, too many grade A chances. Like when you do give away chances, you give away these grade A chances. So that's one of the things I'd like to talk about. We'll briefly talk about the $5 rip-off jersey that ended up on the ice with the peel-off numbers and how ridiculous that is.
Yeah.
And a couple of other things. I mean, goaltending, obviously. I mean, Dursa on your show, Straight Off the Pipe, had a couple of goalies on the other day. Some Koskinen apologists, we'll call them. Sure. And, I think, there's a lot of things to discuss tonight. So where do you want to start? I mean, give me your thoughts on the game tonight.
Well, before we get there, I'd just like to tell you that I've started to try to turn my negatives into positives. And as you've seen, our team has started to create some bad habits. These bad habits are they're looking a lot like trends, if you will, Michael. And so, as much as I hate to admit it, there's, and I'll never gamble on the Oilers to lose. I won't. I never have. But what I decided to do is I thought I'd maybe parlay giving up the first goal and losing the first period. And how about that? Made a little money tonight. And there's a couple other guarantees when it comes to playing the Oilers, and that's that a hometown guy or an ex-Oiler is going to score when you play. Yeah, and that you're going to give up the first goal, right? So what you do is you parlay DeBrusk to score and the Bruins to score first, and then you parlay Larson to score and the Kraken to score first, and then you parlay Dylan Cousins to score and the Sabres to score first. You're a millionaire, and that's where I'm at. I just got buckets of money as the Oilers lose. So it's
is that what's burning in the background there?
Yeah, that is my bank account. Yeah, it's a tire fire. The game tonight was, it's frustrating, right? Because clearly there was a lack of puck luck there. I think, we had some chances. I thought the game was potentially even defined right when Draisaitl missed that wide open net with 12 minutes into the game. Right then and there, I thought to myself, well, here we go again. It was almost like a signing moment. And, one of the announcers may have even said, that's what happens to a losing team in that situation, right? And it's what it felt like at the end of the game. I didn't feel like we really got terribly outplayed. It didn't look like a 5-1 game. It didn't really feel like a 5-1 game.
There's no way we were outplayed.
we outshot them
Chance,
considerably, and we had too many giveaways, 20 giveaways to 13, I think, for the Leafs, and that's too many. I thought our D struggled again, but that's starting to become a bit of a common pattern as well. I love Duncan Keith. I'm probably number 2 on his favorite fan club list here, but he just, I don't know, man. You put him against top pairing, he can't play 24 minutes a night. It's you got him out there against Matthews on that 5th goal. Now maybe the team's given up at that point, but he got dominated on the cycle. He lost the board battle, and then he completely was 10 feet away from him and lost his gap. Like, Matthews is going to score there every time, man, every time. So, I just hate seeing these bad habits because they're creeping in to be, obviously things that almost look to be permanent. You can't give up the first goal in 15 of your last 18, man. 6 in a row. I don't know. It was a different game tonight, but it's the same result, brother.
Yeah. No, and in fact, I mean, we've had a couple of good games in this 6-game losing streak, which is bound to happen, right? You're going to have a couple of good games. I mean, I thought we played Boston reasonably well, and I think tonight we outplayed the Leafs for the most part of the game, but it doesn't mean anything, right? Obviously, it means nothing because you don't come out with the win and stuff like you talk about that Draisaitl miss. I mean, that's huge, right? Like that's his spot. I mean, the guy,
that's his office.
The guy can hit from there with the goalie right in front of him, and he had another point blank shot later on in the game too, and just missed, and really felt like this was a team that was snake bit tonight. I mean, it's mental right now. That's what the game like tonight says is it's gotten to their heads, and there's not much you can do there other than you got to ride it out. Now, Shannon from Antigonish is on Facebook, says frustrated, but Smith is not long-term either, and he'll help Skinner develop, which is true. So that's the positive he's taken from all this. Let's talk a little bit about goaltending, because, I want to talk about this because we had, of course, Dursa had the goalies on Sunday's show, and I listened to a little bit about it. And, and the guys that you see defend Koskinen typically are goalies, right? Like, I'm not going to blame Koskinen for the loss, right? You got to score more than one goal. But the way I view it is always this, right? Like I went back, I watched every one of those goals tonight. I watched a little bit of a few, plays that Toronto had, and I watched a few plays that the Oilers had on Campbell. And just trying to get a feel for, what's going on, right? Like, why are teams like the Leafs scoring these seemingly dirty goals? Is it because the Oilers aren't getting into the dirty areas? I don't think that's it, right? Like, when I watch the Oilers, there's guys out in front of the net. They're trying to do stuff. Part of it is rebound control, right? So when you watch, the teams get a goal against Edmonton, or specifically Koskinen in this case, rebounds are coming off of them every which way. I don't think the team knows where they're going. I don't think Koskinen knows where they're going.
Hips in front are a problem.
Yeah, and and that's going in the net. But I think from a team perspective, and we talk about the mental part about losing, 6 in a row, you start playing differently if you don't trust your goalie, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you watch the gaps tonight on the defense,
and vice versa,
right? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And you watch the gaps tonight that the defense were given, right? You're playing like that because you don't want to give a shot away, right? You're not playing like that because you
trust your goalie to make the save.
Yeah. And so, the rest of the whole team game suffers. Now, I'm not,
and vice versa, man. Your goalie's not going to trust the D if he doesn't, trust that a defenseman's going to cut off that pass across the crease, then he's going to try and cheat. And when you cheat, you make that opening.
Yeah, and
right?
I don't want to make this all about Koskinen, but this, there's got to be something. This is a Ken Holland problem in my mind.
Of course it is.
Yeah, and Mike Smith needs to come back. I'm not. Look, we're still 16-7 now after tonight. Is that what it is? Or no, 16-11.
No.
Sorry, 16. I wish we were 16-7. We're 16-11 after tonight.
Yeah, we erased our 6-0 start.
Yeah. Look, I'm fine with 16-11, but it's got to turn around. I don't know. I think here's a question for you: when is the time to push the panic button? I mean, you texted me when just before we got on. You said, "Hey, are you banging your head against the panic button?" What's your thoughts?
Conscious,
what is
alive over there.
What is the when's the time? Right? Like, when is this an actual? I mean, it was a problem a couple games ago, but when is this a legit problem? Is it when we fall out of 8th place in the conference?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Yeah, I struggle with this because, they say that hockey gets going, game 20 is your turning point, and game 20 is your quarter turn, and you can start to analyze. And they say American Thanksgiving is, when you can start to see patterns, and you can start to see weaknesses develop and strengths develop. And we're there, right? That's where we're just past that. A lot of the time real hockey doesn't even start until the middle of November or towards the end of November. And the part that I fear here, Michael, is that we're at that part of the season right now, and we're playing our worst hockey of the year. And, we did have some advantageous things go our way at the beginning of the year. I think the first 6 or 7 games were against non-playoff teams from the previous year. Then all of a sudden we're in a position where we had 3 or 4 teams backup goalies in a row. And we took advantage of that, and that's great. But, as we start to hit the more complicated competition and the better teams and the teams that play a more playoff style of hockey, I hate to say it, but this is what I've been saying for months on both your show and ours, is that we're not necessarily built to play that playoff style of hockey and to really go out. And so I just, part of me is hitting the panic button already, man, because I'm starting to see my fears come to life. Mathematically, no, dude, this is a 6-game losing streak sucks. It's not great. Not all teams that, make the playoffs have these. We need to nip it in the bud, but ultimately, it's not going to be our season. There's a lot of hockey to play. So
yeah, let's think about this a different way, because we started the season off obviously quite strong, right? And everything that could go in went in the net, right? Like, we got puck luck, we got everything. We had, power play was hitting, just like, for example, the Leafs power play is hitting on all cylinders right now, a lot like the Oilers did for the first little while. So, but here's the thing: we started out 9-1, right? Those first 10 games, everybody in oil country, myself included, we're all excited, right? Maybe not you, but the rest of us.
I was on the committee planning the parade.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, we had the parade planned. We were there, but we saw kinks in the armor, right? I think had we started out 5-5, right? Mm-hmm. If we had started out 5-5, and this team kind of had a different outlook, off the start, I think fans would have still been all right, but they would have wanted more. I think this is the team that Ken Holland signed us up for. Right?
Yeah.
Like, this is, we're a 16-11 team. Mm-hmm. And there's a few parts obviously that need some work, right? Mm-hmm. And we could argue whether there's lots of parts or if there's just a few parts, but there are parts that need work. Yeah. And then there's a couple things that, there's a couple of I told you so's. Like, is anybody surprised that Mike Smith got injured early? Right? I mean, nobody's surprised by that. If he comes back, will be the biggest surprise to me, which it sounds like he's going to be back. But look, we're a 16-11 team. We've, spent 4 or 5 of those games without any of our top D, right? While Nurse came back a little bit, I think earlier than I expected him to come back. We've pretty much played a good majority of the season with, like our second and third string goalie. So being 16-11, hey, that's not bad.
That's right. It's about perspective at the end of the day, is it not? And if you looked at our expectations, and we went back 88 miles an hour in the DeLorean to the beginning of the year, and I said, look, Michael, this is going to be a bit of a tough go, bud, because we're going to lose our number one goalie. If you shoot left-handed and play defense, you're automatically on the IR. And if, we're going to lose our top winger for at least a game or a week. But in getting through all of that, and not to mention all those left-handed defensemen would be hurt at the same time. But at the end of it, we're going to be 16-11. You okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And we should be, we should have known we'd be 16-11. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, as fans, you look at the roster, there were definitely deficiencies there. Right?
Yeah.
I'm still excited for the year. I'm excited for
of course
to watch Draisaitl, and excited to watch, McDavid and these guys. And tonight we saw some, there's no worries, right? Like, there's going to be a lot of folks that are worried about McDavid or worried about Draisaitl, but those guys still played a hell of a game, right? Like, you could still see the skill is there, right? They didn't, they obviously didn't connect for anything. But
McDavid just about embarrassed Riley again. It was close.
Man, that was, you don't watch any single one game and not see McDavid do something really big. Shannon on Facebook says, glad to see a goal from the fourth line. That was a positive. I got Lars on Facebook. He says, old goalies always get the bad rap. By the way, happy birthday, Lars. Lars happens to be an old goalie. He's also a big Swede. So he says, plus a Finnish goalie to boot, Siv. No bias there. No bias there whatsoever.
No regency bias.
So I think we can agree, right? Like, it's not, not necessarily time to hit the panic button. Maybe losing 6 in a row is not ideal. What did the Oilers got to do to get through this?
Well, you said it, man. This is the team Holland built us. I think that came through when you joined us on Straight Off the Pipe a couple episodes ago, and we all had a little tiff and a fight about whether Tippett would get fired. And in that little argument we had, I told you that Tippett got to help pick these players. Here's McDavid and Tippett having meetings about Duncan Keith and feeding that upwards to Ken Holland, who's taken their advice and put these players in place. Ken Holland wanted Markkanen. He wanted Grubauer. He lost out on those players and they went somewhere else. And that was the signal that he knew he needed a better starting goaltender. He knew that he needed something better than the combination of Smith and Koskinen. Unfortunately, those cards didn't fall. I give him a little credit for not hitting the panic button and going after, like a Columbus goalie that was out there, or a Kudobin who now ends up on waivers. And, we didn't have to, but I don't think after the way that the cards were dealt to Hull in this offseason that he sat there and looked at his hand and went, oh yeah, this is the best thing going. This is the real deal. We're going all the way here. Right. And so, what's a win for this season? Is it making it past the first round? Is it making it to a conference final? Is it getting to the Stanley Cup? We all have different opinions on that. We're all trying to build towards something. I would say if, we said that, hey, we're going to, after we hadn't made the playoffs for as long as we had through our decade of darkness, and said, hey, we're going to start making the playoffs consistently, 2, 3, 4 years in a row. And, we're going to start to get further and further in the playoffs. Like, I'm not saying we're going to win a Stanley Cup in 2021. And nor do I think that this is the team that Tippett or Holland think will get them there. So it's another reason to not hit the panic button, Michael. But it's the team that we have. So you know what? We don't have the biggest defenseman. We lack physicality. You talked about the tips in front, and you talked about the traffic in front. Like, Nurse is the only guy that can move someone outside of Marcus Niemelainen, who's our 9th on the depth chart. You know what I mean? Like, and for him to step in and leapfrog a few guys was important. So what do we got to do to get off? I don't know, man. We got to play through it and win a couple of games, get some confidence back, and stop letting in the first goal.
Yeah, that first goal, and look, something about this team, and I don't want to blame it on the officials because,
I'm sick of
a
that
loser's
narrative.
lament, but
That's right.
I mean, it's still right. We get that
Doesn't
first
mean it's
call.
not frustrating.
I thought, wow, hey, we got a first call, and then of course we only got half a penalty on a weak interference call, and then
Why is Cassian out there anyways? That's what should happen when you have Cassian on the power play. He should take a penalty. Get off the ice.
Yeah. So there's a couple. Rob Saria's on YouTube listening in. Thanks, Rob.
Hey, Rob.
Goaltending.
Say hi to Christy for me.
Goaltending is on the GM and no one else. Yeah, exactly, 100%. That's
Rob and I share a very
Dash,
good friend.
Dash said, nice. And Shannon says one of the things we need to do is be tougher. We're too easy to play against. Now, he wants to see McDavid's grit he had in Erie. We're not playing take the body hockey at all. Big hits inspire the team, slow down the opposition. Niemelainen has been throwing around some big hits. 100% though, Shannon's onto something because I watched the game tonight. And as I said, I went back and I watched some key areas. We're not mixing it up in front of the net. We're getting out in front of the net. We're not mixing it up. Hey, I hate Tkachuk as much as any Oilers fan, but man, I love the way that guy gets in front of the net and mixes it up. I hate Marchand as much as any fan in the NHL, but he mixes it up in front of the net. Right now, those guys are in the all-star category of players. But Simmons has had a good year this year, and he's mixing it up. Right, guys gotta, this is Rob Surreal will love this because he, I know his love for Cassian, but like Cassian has got to be better. Like, something's got to be done. There's only.
The issue is that Cassian's not a good checker. He's good at throwing the body around. He's good at making body checks, but he doesn't have a good defensive IQ. He doesn't know where to be positionally. And so if you're going to have a guy like that, you got to, that brings the intangibles that Cassian does. You want to have a guy like that on the third or fourth line, but generally your third and fourth line are your checking line. So like there's a contradiction of skill and terms there, in my opinion. Cassian is I don't know. He's almost better on the first line. I hate to say it.
And I think might have been Rob said it the other day, but the Cassian experiment is done. Like it, it's game after game. I just look, he's there's no doubt he's a better hockey player than I'll ever hope to be, but but he's not the player for this team. I
really saw a turn once that contract got extended. I just I think McTavish said it best when he was talking about Penner when they gave him that big contract, and then McTavish started to hate his effort and said, we really saw this contract that we offered up to him as a starting point, not a finish line.
Yeah. Hey, I don't even know if I should read this comment.
Oh, is it from Dursa? Yeah. No, honestly.
No, Shannon says, yes, Dash, you nailed it on Cass. Yeah. Well,
I'm often right, Michael. Hey,
guys got to get it right once in a while, I suppose.
Ask Dursa. I'm on a podcast with a guy that I'm right 100% of the time. And
that's right.
We all know the guy's eye candy and a little bit of a boost to our female viewership, but sometimes I just simply feel like there's not enough time or crayons to explain hockey to that guy.
We got Lars says Koskinen has an incredible ability to let first shots and immediate goals in, perhaps a better goalie coach. So, I was watching Dursa with the goalies on Sunday night, and of course, Chad's big on letting Dustin Shorts, on letting him go. I'm kind of big on this too because look, we haven't seen anything come out of our goaltending in a long time. That Mike Smith, to me, isn't a product of the goaltending coach. He's just been around too long, right, in the league. He's going to play his style, and he plays. He's about as unique a goalie as you're going to get. But like the rebound control, playing too far in the net, a couple of these things. I think it's time for a move, whether it's a goaltending coach or not. Make the move, make the change, right? I'm 100% on that. What do you think? Free Energy on YouTube says, what do you think about the recent reports of a lack of camaraderie on a team? My opinion on that, I think that's BS. I haven't heard those reports, but I'd say that's BS. I think this team, they're a good group. You got Hyman, you got Draisaitl, McDavid. Those guys, they all love each other. Your thoughts on that?
Have you ever seen a workplace with 30 to 40 people in it where everybody loves each other?
Well, one that I'm leading.
Other than heavy hockey?
Other than Heavy Hockey Network. Yeah. No, I mean, not everybody's going to love each other. That's for sure.
I just think I've never seen an NHL dressing room where everybody gets best friends, it was known that Mike Pekka would keep his earbuds in, and not talk to anybody and not engage with any of his teammates until the whistle blew and they were heading out to the ice. He'd take his earbuds out and go play. And, Sean Avery was like that. And at the end of the day, you don't work to make friends. Camaraderie and good culture and all of that stuff's important. And then it does lead to championships. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think there's a championship or a Stanley Cup that's been won where every single guy loved each other. So, 6-game losing streaks start to put a little bit of fire in people's passion.
100%. You start looking around the room to see who's at fault for everything, right? You start pointing fingers. You've been on enough hockey teams. I've been on enough hockey teams. You start, you've never made a mistake on the ice. Sometimes you might admit to it, but you always think you make the right play, and it's the other guy that should have done this or should have done that, and I totally believe that. I know 100%. The other thing, right? Like, and we're not going to go on this commentary very long, but I look at the guys south of us. They're going through a little bit of a stretch as well. Four games lost in a row. I think they're 17 and 13 or 16 and 13 right now or something like that.
Are you referring to the Calgary Super Spreaders?
Yeah, the Super Spreaders. Here's the thing I'll say is you can have camaraderie in the dressing room, but you can also have a coach that gets everybody playing the same style of system. And I would tell you, if I was to take talent, I'd take the Oilers for talent level.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was to take a team that's following a system, the Flames have been following a system all year that's worked for them other than the past 4 games. And is getting them noticed, right? Like, everybody in the league's got them a lot higher than the Oilers in the power rankings. But if I'm to take a team based on talent, I take the Oilers team for sure. But there's something to be said, right? You can have all the camaraderie you want, but if people aren't playing the right system, then then it's just not going to work for you. And I just don't see this, this Oiler team. I feel like maybe this, 6-game losing streak is a bit of a wake-up call, right? We
hope so.
Like we prior to 2-3 games ago, we were talking about slow starts. Other than the first goal against, I think the Oilers have come out playing hard in the last few games, right? Like the slow start thing is out the window. They got to build off of that now.
Yeah,
when we
it's
get
just
that
still
first
been
goal,
the first goal. That's right.
when we get that first goal, that's going to be a big deal. Free Energy on YouTube said, "Did you see the comments Bear had made in regards to the playoffs last year?" I don't remember that.
Like which comments made recently or after the playoffs?
Might have
I
been.
mean, I'm aware of what he had said after the playoffs and how the team hadn't gotten along, that there was division. And, I obviously, if you ask Ethan Bear, he's not going to think that Tippett has a lot of patience for young players, and perhaps he doesn't. But if he said anything recently, I certainly missed that. I guess what you're trying to say in those words, and I guess I agree as well, is that getting along is different than buying in or being on the same page. Am I right?
Yeah, 100%. Right. Like I think this is something that the team needs to buy into a system, and it's got to be difficult to have a team. I know it's going to sound a little bit crazy. It's crazy when I'm thinking about it, but I've been thinking about this lately. You've got Draisaitl and you've got McDavid. And you got guys lately making a lot of comments about the bottom six and saying, well, how are you going to get anywhere if you're not playing any minutes, right? But you can't just go and give, your third and your fourth line equal minutes because you want them to, to be better, right? Like McDavid and Draisaitl earned extra minutes, right? Like they're that good. You have to have them out there. So you just have to, but it's almost like you're coaching two separate teams, right? You got to have one style for those guys and who's playing with
your top six plays one system and your bottom six plays another.
And they have to, right? Like it's just, you can't have, and here's where the whole Kassian thing drives me nuts. I feel like he's out there on the third line trying to play a top six kind of role. And it's not going to work. You got to grind it out, right? I actually thought Fogle had a hell of a game tonight, by the way.
Yeah, he's had a pretty good streak lately. He got another 4 shots on net, and he's been putting up 4s and 6s and 7s, and seems a little snake bitten, obviously. But I didn't hate seeing him in a more offensive prevalent role. It was good to see for sure. I'd like to see him be there consistently and then produce consistently. That would be nice, right? If we could kind of even it up that way a little bit. Yeah, man. The Flames. Jeez, you had to go there, hey?
Hey, it irks me
tough
every time.
It does. Well, me too, man. It's like, and I wanted them to fail under Sutter. I'm like, you laughed when they rehired Sutter. This isn't supposed to work, like what the. But the guy, give him credit. He's got that team going in the right direction, and super spreaders. Like we needed another reason to hate the Calgary Flames. They go and start giving the rest of the NHL COVID. I feel like the Flames are the reason God invented the middle finger. It's like just F off already. I don't know. They're just a bane of my existence.
But this is how, the same thing goes for the teams that have been really good over the last few years, right? Like the Golden Knights. They've bought into a system. They play the same system night after night after night.
Yeah, come at you in waves.
We don't get, and I'm done with the Tippett thing. I know he's not going anywhere this year. That's why I'm done with it. But we're not getting that buy-in, whether it's Tippett, whether it's the players, the personnel, whether it's the organization. I don't know. We're not getting that buy-in. I think Shannon on Facebook earlier said something about we don't have an Ethan Moreau or a Bookberger in one of the comments.
Hendricks.
Or a Hendricks. We don't. Maybe we need a couple of those sort of types of energy players. That's the guy Kassian everybody expected him to be. Once everybody was saying once the fans were back, we're gonna get Orange Crush back again, right?
Yeah,
that went nowhere. Dursa's listening in on YouTube. He says, when was the last time Kassian delivered a good clean check? I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get on the guy, but there's got to be some. I thought we had depth in the forwards for the first time with acquisition of Fogel. Fogel's been actually really great. I think, we expected more of Perlini. We expected more of Sevier, I think, right? Ryan, definitely expected more from Ryan. I thought Ryan had a good game tonight, though. I thought he had a decent game.
Ryan is, did he? Like, he won a few faceoffs. Ryan's starting to remind me of the Belanger triangle, man. That puck, it's where the puck goes to die. Offense goes there to die. I've been saying since episode 1 and since I've started at heavy hockey that Ryan's better off as a fourth line center, and he's proven me right, man. Like,
tell me your thoughts on. Ryan's there. Tell me your thoughts on Benson, because I'm of two minds on this kid, right? Like, I love that he's out. He looks like he's trying his damnedest to be good in a bottom six role. I don't know that he's going to be a long-term NHLer. But man, you know what? Like, I love the fact that when he gets out there, he's trying to rough it up a little bit. He's trying to do things, and that's not, he's a playmaker, right? He's a guy that I'm hoping for him. Just right now, I don't think he's got it.
Tyler Benson had 360 points in 60 games in AAA Bantam, and then followed it up with 250 points in 60 games in AAA Midget as a two-year underager. Like, the guy's never been on a fourth line in his entire effing life. So yeah, I give him credit for sure, man. He's trying to play a role. He's, like Andrew Cogliano wasn't a third and fourth liner in junior and growing up, right? Like, these guys have to either figure it out if they're going to stay in the league, or they've got to be given an opportunity. And, the only way that a guy like Tyler Benson is ever going to, let me rephrase that. The only way that we're ever going to know if a guy like Tyler Benson has reached his potential is if he's put in a position to succeed with that opportunity. And I just don't see Tyler Benson moving up to the top line or getting any power play time, or, but you rewind the clock and Tyler Benson put in offensive situations in the AHL last year as like a top 5 scorer. And, you put him, he's a point a game player his entire career in the AHL. You put him in his entire 5 years where he, led the Vancouver Giants in career scoring, and is a point a game player in the WHL after being a first overall pick in the WHL draft. Like, the guy's is blue chip and a prospect as it should be, right? Like, it's just his size hurts him, his speed hurts him. But that doesn't mean you don't make it in the NHL. A lot of guys that don't have great speed and great shots or still make it. It is that hockey IQ. So you see it come through in his fourth line role. I just don't know, man. I don't know. I agree with you. I don't know if we'll ever see a long-term NHLer there, because I'm not sure he's ever going to get the shot on the first or second line. And without that, he's trying on the fourth line, but I don't think that's a 10-year fourth liner. Do you?
No. It's funny because I was listening to Mike Rupp on Sirius XM. In fact, it was today.
Rubber.
And, he said a couple things which I thought were kind of neat. He was talking, he said, look, there's a whole ton of guys like that are better than 50% of the NHLers today that are sitting in the AHL. That got more talent than 50% of the NHLers
opportunity.
Today. Yeah, it's opportunity, right? They're guys that can't play in the bottom 6, right? So they'll never stick. They could only play in the top 6. So that was one of the things he talked about. And this kind of made me think about Yamamoto a little bit, which is he was talking about Chris Bourque, Ray Bourque's son. He said Chris Bourque went and played in Pittsburgh. He played on Crosby's line. He said he was there. Rupp was there when he was playing on Crosby's line, and he couldn't believe, like, Bourque, how much he made happen. But he never got the puck in the net, right? Like, he just never got the puck in the net. So he's gone, right?
Yeah, but his Wilkes-Barre stats were off the charts.
Yeah, he was, and Rupp was saying the guy had more talent than most NHLers did, but he just couldn't get the puck in the net. Who knows why? Right?
Yeah.
You just don't get the chances. I mean, we're seeing that with Yamo. Maybe he'll turn it around. I don't know, but look, it's just not good enough, right? It's just not good enough. We got Mr. T. Not sure who that is on YouTube.
Mr. Durst's alter ego.
Probably, yeah. Derek Ryan and Yamo play great on the PK together. During a preseason interview, Yamo said he practiced a lot with Ryan and views him like a dad. I'd love to see them put together on a line. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Yamo place down the lineup a little bit. I do love the way Yamo fights for the puck in the corners. Like I love watching that guy when he goes puck retrieval. That's what he's good at. That's actually one of the reasons that Draisaitl loves playing with him.
For
right?
sure.
Like the puck retrieval's off the charts. Him and Nuge too, right? Like same thing. I think if you put Yamo down, to line 3, in fact, I think he was practicing there just the other day. I thought maybe they might push him there. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, that's the kind of, you want a guy like that keeping the puck down low for, a good third line shift, a good fourth line shift, right? Like, who cares if you're getting, 20 points, but if you get one, right, once in a while, then hey, we're happy for you. I'd be
struggle with Derek
that.
Ryan being able to support Yamo on a line like that. I think that's two of our smallest guys, and
Yeah, true.
Yamo does well when he's got a horse like Draisaitl, with his support on the cycle, and two guys like that trying to cycle the puck, I think are going to get dominated in a lot of situations. Now they might be okay in their own end, but I don't mind the idea of Yamo on the third line. I'm just not sure I love the idea of Derek Ryan being there with him. If Derek Ryan can take a role on the fourth line, man, Eric Stahl's just sitting there, like Bobby Ryan's just sitting there. Patrick Marleau's just sitting there. And maybe the last two names aren't, but like, doesn't that intrigue you a little bit? Like, does Eric Stahl not want to come to Edmonton? I don't know, man. Like,
I think he'd play. I think a lot of players would play in Edmonton now. I think they're, I think it's a destination spot, but something's obviously, when you're down by 6, right? Like, or when you're down 6 in a row, it's a different story, but they'll turn it around. Rob's got a good point here. It's difficult to do with no Hyman, but does tonight force Tippett to finally visit the 3 big guys down the middle? I don't see why not. Why not put the 3 and 100% though without Hyman in the lineup? But he might. What's the word on him? Is he week to week or is he day to day?
Yeah.
I thought he was day to day.
Week or two.
Is that what they're saying? Yeah.
Day to day isn't much different than a week or two, because day to day or game to game is, 2 or 3 games in a week, and there you go, right?
Yeah.
So,
Shannon's got a question for you. Would you put Benson on 1 or 2 for a good spell to get a better look at him?
great question. Either one, really. I mean, 1A, 1B as far as Draisaitl, McDavid goes center anyways, right? Or maybe you give Benson that shot with McDavid and Draisaitl. That'd be interesting to see, but I don't know. I don't think. I'm not sure. I'd like to see him with McDavid because I think the high hockey IQ is there. Draisaitl seems to work better with Yamamoto, the puck retriever, and likes playing with Nuge because of the defensive responsibilities. So, I think I appreciated Shannon, but I think it just falls back to what we're saying. I'm just not sure that he can make it as a full-time NHLer in a top 6.
His skating, it just isn't there, right? Yeah. I mean, I watch him, and he doesn't seem to have, like, he's got good hockey IQ, as you said, but he seems that a half step behind in the NHL game. He is. I can't see him. But hey, look, I mean, if you're in the situation you're in, why not throw him on 1 or 2 for I don't know if a good spell is what I would do, but I'd maybe give him a night there and see it. But that all would depend on how that happens in practice. Mike Durst is watching both on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks, Mike. And he says on Facebook, when the Oilers say day-to-day in English, that means long-term injured reserve. Smacks my head. 100%. You're right. Can't argue that.
Does Durst's ass ever get jealous of all the crap that comes out of his mouth?
Jeez. Yeah, you save your chirping for the straight off the pipe. Yeah.
All right.
What do you think of the defense? I mean, we talked a little bit about some of them tonight. One guy I want to talk about that has surprised me this year is Cody Cece.
Mhm.
I've really loved what we've seen from him, not just like defensively, but offensively in the zone, keeping pucks in, making some, smart plays down low. I've been pretty happy with him. Your thoughts?
I love you, Dursa. I'm just kidding. He's got his first pass surprises me. I think like that was the thing that really jumped out at me that I didn't expect from him. When we first picked him up for that 3 or 4 year contract, I did actually quite a bit of research and started reading around, and Dursa and I had someone from Pittsburgh on our podcast that talked about his play, and I thought when he was playing those sheltered minutes and wasn't playing those number one pairing minutes in Pittsburgh, he really came out of his shell as being that value part of the defensive core, whereas I think he was a little bit overexposed in Toronto and Ottawa previously as a number one defenseman. So to bring him over here and slot him in beside somebody else that's a veteran and calm, as much as I jump on Keith for his mistakes, he does calm things down. And I actually heard a shocking stat that he led our team in successful passes out of the zone before he got hurt. So, there's something good happening with those two. And what I do find when they're together is when they get running around, it looks a little scrambly and can be gross, but for the most part, they're pretty good at just getting the puck out of their end quickly. Right. It's not on their sticks long. They can break up a cycle pretty decently on Cece's side, I find. And then the puck's gone. And either Cece will make something tape to tape, or I noticed Duncan Keith likes to do that slap shot where he just kind of aims at one of his teammates at the red line and they deflect it in for the dump and chase. And, it's not pretty, but you're not going to get an icing call and it's out of your end. So I get it. I think Cece's probably been the most pleasant surprise because I think we expected Hyman to be good. I'd say Fogle has met expectations. He's been snake bitten, but he's played well. So it's been great to see what Cece's done out there. I think he's probably been our most consistent and stable defenseman this year.
Yeah. No, he's been really good. I've been happy with Keith this year, and I think if you got those guys playing as you say sheltered minutes, the guy that I just he's like the Cassian for the defense is Tyson Barrie. I mean, I don't know how we ended up giving him the contract we did. That's a lot of money for a power play specialist. Who there's other guys that can do that role, and because he's making that kind of money, they keep him on the power play is the only thing that I can figure out. Like if I'm to make a change on the power play, which is struggling as of late, and it's struggling, but I think some of that's puck luck. Like they seem to be getting still some chances in that, and they're moving the puck around nicely. But it's Barrie, right? Like I'd change Barrie from that, maybe put Bouchard in if you want. Maybe put Nurse. I don't know. Are you worried to put Bouchard in because you're gonna have to pay him, right? Like, what's the deal? I mean, you can't obviously
win games, man.
But he's the guy that you got to change, right?
I like Bouchard on the power play better, to be honest. I think he dances the line like a young Sergei Zubov. He just he's moves the puck in a different way. Barry's obviously not poor on the power play. He's like leading scoring defenseman and like an incredible power play quarterback. Look what he did in Colorado when he had McKinnon and Landeskog and Ranton in there. So, but that's what Barry's good for. He played his way out of Colorado. He went to Toronto. My best friend's a Leafs fan. And he said, oh yeah, you'll enjoy the points he gets. You just wait. Right. And we see that now. We start to see those scrambles and that panic and his like defensive lapses and positioning that are just baffling sometimes. And I guess what I hope, this is tough to say because I like Tyson Barrie and I think the team likes him, to be honest. But I hope he could be that trade chip for us. That we can, find a team that's looking for what Tyson Barrie can offer, and perhaps shed ourselves luckily of that and bring in somebody that complements our defensive pairings a little better, right? Like you see how Marcus Niemelainen's jumped up the depth chart here, and maybe Sam Rukov and do the same thing next year. But we lack that physicality in our back end. And I think for a playoff run or a deep playoff run, we're going to need those Kulikovs or, those guys that can, the Bogosians that can really, grind and take punishment and give punishment. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting, man.
Hey, I'm excited about Niemelainen. Like
Me too.
This is a kid that's played what? He's on game 3 or 4
7.
now?
Seven.
Is
Tonight was 7.
already?
Yeah.
Holy
yeah,
crap, man. Time flies. How many have we won out of those?
1.
Damn it. The Niemelainen's the problem this whole time.
The Niemelainen curse. We figured it out. It wasn't Tippett. Oh, man. Here we are. We had
played 7. No, you know what I like?
We had Gullickson running the bench, and we still lost.
He laid a pretty big hit tonight, and he's going to. He's a big kid.
He's fun to watch.
He is fun to watch, and he just plays. He's played a simple game. He's played what you want for a third pairing D.
Sure.
I don't know that he's fully ready. Like I think there's. He should be a little bit further down the depth chart, but he's what we got right now, and I'd rather.
He's a bit raw, but he's 6'5", 6'6". He skates like the wind. He closes gaps. I was actually I was late watching for the first 5 minutes of the game, and so I was listening on the radio, and Stauffer mentioned in the first few minutes of the game something about, did you just see Austin Matthews give Niemelainen that look after he closed that gap on him? It was almost like, holy shit, how are you on top of me already? And it's there's times out there where he looks like a bit of a condor, like his reach is just so wide. And then, there's that Chara effect where you're just like, and you're right on there all of a sudden. So you almost underestimate the ability to poke check, and then he's right there. So, and because he can skate so well, it's interesting. He's got all the raw skill and the potential. I mean, he blows somebody up every game or two. Like, sorry, Dustin Brown, not sorry.
Yeah, no, well, nobody expected him to be playing minutes this year, right? I don't think, and for him to get some minutes in and some development, it's.
I'm forgetting who he did it to, but I think the best thing I saw him do all year was feed that guy from Minnesota a helping of his stick. Who did he cross check? In the face there in that retaliation? But isn't that what you want to see?
Man. Yeah, absolutely.
Get some space for your teammates. Like, have a reputation that you can't be pushed around, and the Oilers lack a bit of that right now.
Yeah. They really do, right? Like, there is nobody to fear on this team, right? Yep. Like, I can't. I don't know. We got John on YouTube asks, will the Oilers trade for Fleury to solidify the goaltending? I mean, Fleury's been a conversation point all year. I mean, a couple. I think he's still part of a modified no move, right?
He is, yeah.
And so, he's got to want to play in Edmonton. It has to be the thing. I think one of the challenges Fleury had with going to Chicago is he's a family man, right? Like he and he didn't want to be moving around, right? Like
Yeah.
And so I'm this Fleury thing kind of is curious to me because obviously it's been, the rumor from almost game 1, right? Is when's Fleury coming over?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's like wishful thinking, right? And you and I both, we're on two different minds. I think that obviously he's a good goalie, right? But is he the guy to get you where you want to go on this team?
Yeah, I think he is.
I
really do. Yeah, I know we've had this chat before, and I know you have your hesitations, but this guy's the reigning Vezina champion. He was an important and integral part of the Pittsburgh Penguins' Stanley Cup victories. Ex-teammates talk about him like he's the greatest guy on earth and a gift from God.
It sounds to me a lot like Mike Smith,
exactly
though,
what
if he played a full season, right? Like Mike Smith is a hell of a goalie when he plays a full season.
Yeah.
They're roughly the same age, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, hell of a guy in the locker room. Everybody loves Smith. The guy was the only person that showed up in the Flames Avalanche series a couple of years ago, where the Flames went down four straight after almost winning the President's Trophy. Remember that? 4 straight, first round, 4 straight. Did they say that?
I loved it. Yeah,
yeah.
I heard
But he
you
was
loud
the
and
only
clear.
guy. He was the only guy that showed up for that. Yeah, I'd love to. I guess to be fair, I would love to see Fleury put on an Oilers jersey. I wonder. I do have that hesitation. I wouldn't be upset if the Oilers were to make a trade for him. But I think that the whole part that modified no movement, everybody's gonna want a shot at Fleury that's going to the playoffs, right? Like it's going to be competitive.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Michael.
Yeah.
If not Fleury,
then who?
Then who? Right? Like here's a list of your 2022 UFA NHL goaltenders. Marc-Andre Fleury, Mikko Koskinen, right? Darcy Kemper, Thomas Greiss, Halak, Korpisalo, Schneider, Francouz, Holtby, Jones, Jack Campbell, Rittich, right? Like, if not him, who? Who are we going to carry Price? We can't afford him. Who are we going to trade for?
Yeah.
If it's not going to be one of those guys, then it has to be a trade, right? And if it's going to be a trade, then who? Who's got a terrible team with an awesome goalie?
This not for this year, but for
for next year. But it's either got to be a trade or it's got to be an off-season
Verzmelka or
signing,
or however you say his name in Arizona. Like the guy's got shit in front of him, and he's still got a .900 save percentage, and he's been outstanding.
You can barely pronounce his name. He's getting us to a Stanley Cup final, Michael.
He's not. That he's not. But man, I'd love to see him end up on our team. Because that Houston team's not going anywhere.
Right. So that's where I look at it from that standpoint. Now, if you give me that list of goalies, or you give me like who's our sellers at the trade deadline, right? Like we've got some guaranteed sellers, right? We've got Ottawa and Arizona and teams that seem to be throwing it to the wolves, but I don't want any of their goalies. Who do you want? Craig Anderson? Right? Like you can't get a seller's goalie. And if not, then you've got to make an off-season trade, or you've got to sign somebody in the off-season. So I think when I look at this list of names,
you and I are in disagreement.
I want to touch with a 10-foot pole.
You and I are in disagreement in terms of what matters this season. Like if the Oilers don't make it anywhere in the playoffs, it's complete failure in my mind. Like it's zero improvement over 3 years. Right?
I'm scared we're headed there again.
100% we're headed there right now with the team we have. 100%.
So if we get out of the first round, this year's a success in your eyes?
Well, at least the first round. I mean, I guess it depends on how the second round looks. If you get out of the first round and you're blown away in 4,
right?
Yeah, then But there's still a lot of work. Like this, that's the key on this team, right? Is that's what everybody's been talking about since game 1. Is this team's not playoff caliber team? They're a regular season team.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody knows what the exact formula is, right? Otherwise, Maple Leafs would have been past the first round, at some point in their lives. Right?
Well, they haven't been past the first round since Austin Matthews was 6 years old.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, they've got to improve year over year, right? And, I could care less about the other teams right now, right? Like, what I care about is that, I want to see, as a fan, I want to see McDavid and I want to see Draisaitl and I want to see them do well in the playoffs. And we've seen them do well in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen, except for Kessler holding a pad right? Like we'd been through 2 rounds, right? And and a lot of that, well, Draisaitl was the guy that really showed up that year, right?
Yep.
McDavid had some bouts of brilliance, which he's bound to, but Draisaitl was the guy that came to play. Like I love the fire in that guy when he gets going. He's a playoff guy, right? Like when he, I was at that game in San Jose where he, got up between the up in the
speared somebody where the sun don't shine.
But you know what? To me, that's like tonight, Draisaitl getting that penalty, which was a shit call, but him fighting back, that's 100% Draisaitl. The guy hates to lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like he's he
called a penalty in the first place. He doesn't have to wrestle him, but
100%.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, for sure.
But I love that guy.
Yep.
And
I don't have any doubt that those guys can carry us once we get there. I think like you see the sheer determination in like look what McDavid did against the Rangers when he got pissed off for 30 seconds. Right? Like, oh man, I lost the puck and it pissed me off. So then I deked out 17 guys and scored the game-winning goal. Like that's the McDavid I can't wait to see in the playoffs. So it's game 7 and he just goes, Mark Messier's hat trick in the 3rd period for the Rangers in the guaranteed game. Like I feel like that's the capabilities that our McDavids and Draisaitl's have. We need the supporting cast to make that deep run. So yeah, like the positive side of me says hopefully we can get a round or 2. I think it depends who our matchups are, right? And if we can kind of get into the first round with somebody that's a bit of a track meet where we can go back and forth, but if we land against a team like the Jets or the Blues or something like that in the first round, that might be a little tough on us.
Yeah, 100% it'd be tough. I mean, playoffs are going to be tough for this team without some major changes. You got to have, there's just got to be somebody other than Cassian that's our shit disturber on this team, right? Like it's, there's got to be somebody that's going to get up night after night. I want somebody that the other team hates, right? I want our Wilson. I want our Kachuk, right? Like, I want our Brad
So what you're saying is we go out and we get Brendan Lemieux and then we make a trade for Evander Kane.
Yeah.
And then what we can do is
you don't even have to trade for those guys. You just call up.
You brought up Ryan Kessler. We could bring him back out of retirement and he could start grabbing pads for us, or maybe Matt Cook or Rafi Torres. That'd be a pretty hated line.
Yeah, I would have loved to see Corey Perry on this team. And I hate Corey Perry, but man, did I want to see him in an Oilers uniform, right?
Yeah, it would have righted a lot of wrongs,
Man.
But just the same breath, I'd like to see an Eric Stahl, to be honest. Like he brings the same type of intangibles and still a 3rd line center and
good
skill
experience.
and size. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Bring us a cup instead of beating us like you did back in 2006, you jerk.
Yeah, the team needs a little sandpaper, right? I'd like to see it earlier than later. Like I don't want to wait until the deadline. I want to see it earlier than later. Okay, we're going to start winding down here.
Okay, buddy.
Because it's 2:00. But I want to talk about one last thing before we do. Olympics. So I put a tweet out. Well, okay. First, let's go just quickly. A couple comments here. Marc-Andre Fleury would be a huge improvement. That's Lars. Smith back, and that tandem is gold. Oldest goalie tandem in the league, no doubt. But yeah, I'd love that tandem. Shannon says, "What about Price?" Lars, Price is way overrated. And Shannon says he's heard to carry Price to Edmonton.
It's too expensive. How do we fit 10 million into our cap?
Yeah. Mr. T says Dubnik with an LOL at the end. I'll give him the break there. And then Dursa says, "What are your expectations of Mike Smith if he plays Thursday?" I think, if he can get through the game without getting injured, that might be the kickstart we need.
Maybe, yeah, great. Well said. I think you just took the words off the tip of my tongue. That's what I was going to say, is it just might be the kickstart we need. I think it does really show how much we miss him back there handling the puck. Taking pressure off the defense, getting the puck off the ice, taking pressure off them to make sure that, Keith and Cece can go high.
He changes the power play up.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
He's one of the only goalies in the league that changes how your power play looks, right? Yeah.
He's good in the dressing room. He's got the intangibles we need on the ice. So yeah, let's hope, to Durst's point, maybe that's what do I expect out of him? I expect him to change the Oilers' fortunes back to the good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. I'm with you there. Okay, last topic. We're going to chat Olympics. Your thoughts, should the NHL go? They've got, I think, till January 10th is the deadline without financial penalty, although I think Bettman opened it up today to say they don't really care about the financial penalty. They'll bow out if they bow out. Should they go?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Will they go?
It's just laying the tough questions on. Will they go? I don't know. I gotta skirt you on both, dude. Will they go? I don't know. I think time will still tell a little bit, to be honest, and to see what more information. Connor McDavid gave that answer today in his presser, and just we need more information before we can make those decisions. I know all the players still want to go. The sentiment from the player side of it, nobody's throwing their arms up in the air and going, okay, fine, we don't want to go now if this is going to be the case. But, here's the thing, Michael, there isn't a person listening to this podcast. There isn't a person in Canada. There isn't a person.
Wait a second. There's a few people listening to the podcast.
All right. To the tens and tens of people listening to this podcast. Right. We all want to see Canada play in the Olympics. We all want to see Connor McDavid wear a Team Canada jersey. 100%. We all want to see what he can do to elevate the country. Can he get the golden goal can he have his moment? We all want to see that. Are we as Oilers fans willing to sacrifice not having Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, or I'm not sure Nurse is there anymore in the conversation, or Darnell Nurse have to stay in China for 4 weeks while our favorite team goes and potentially struggles without them? If our team goes on a 2-8 record while McDavid's in quarantine in China, how much are we going to have liked those Olympics then? So do I want to see him? Of course I want to see him, Michael. Do I want to see him where they all get to fly home and play on their NHL teams when they get there? I'm just not sure what that's reality or what our world is giving us right now, bro.
Yeah, I don't chat much about politics when it comes to my hockey stuff, but I got a problem with us going to China at all. For one, to support that regime there is problem number one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some of the veiled threats on about the diplomatic boycott, kind of concern me. I'd be concerned as any athlete in any sport going out to China, just based on those threats, especially if you're the kind of high-profile athlete that a McDavid or a Draisaitl or somebody like that is, right? And you're in this country, and who knows, right? Who knows what happens? They might, but you're talking 3-5 weeks. Who knows, right? And you're stuck in. They're saying possibly not even in the hotel you're at. You might be at a Chinese medical
quarantine
center,
hotel.
Right? Yeah, quarantine hotel. There's no way in hell I would want to be there as an athlete of any sport.
You just said the word hell. Chinese quarantine hotel sounds like hell. I don't know, man.
100%.
I don't know.
Right? When you saw the original, pictures coming out of China when COVID first started, it's some scary shit. And so, look, are
we willing to sacrifice all that to see McDavid in a Team Canada jersey? That's really what it comes down to. We all want to see it, but I don't know if I do. I don't know. I don't know what my answer is, bro.
I don't. I want to see them in the Olympics, not under these circumstances.
Just not yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go play.
That's fair.
Olympics
I appreciate your
Norway
stance.
Or something, and that's.
Yeah, I respect your stance. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to see another World Cup. hey, or rename it back to the Canada Cup. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Team North
happen.
America.
Yeah. Oh, that part I could do without, but that was just me. It was kind of fun, but it was a little bit hokey.
It was fun because McDavid was on Team North America. Yeah. If it was outside of that, who knows? But
yeah. Yeah, here's we're talking about the Chinese government there. The CCP held the two Michaels businessmen with trumped up charges for years. Imagine the leverage they will have with our millionaire players, right? That's exactly it.
Yeah, I hate to think about it, but yeah.
Dursa says, nightmare Tom Clancy novel stuff. They give Connor a fake positive COVID test. So, like, hey, I mean, that's the concern I have. That's it for tonight. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. As always, good episode. Be back next Tuesday. Recap kind of tonight. Oilers lose 5-1 to the visiting Toronto Maple Leafs to extend their losing streak to a glorious 6 games. Sad day for Oilers fans. We did see a jersey on the ice, which looked to me like a cheap ripoff of a jersey. My suspicion is it was a Leafs fan came prepared.
That's exactly what I said to my wife. If I ever go to a Leafs game, I'm wearing my Oilers jersey and taking a $20 Chinese knockoff Leafs jersey and hucking it on the ice when we're winning 5-1.
That's exactly. Oilers still managed 36 shots tonight. In fact, the second period they were up like 7, 8, 9 shots before like 12 minutes into the second period before the Leafs even got a shot, which they happened to score on.
That's right.
So that's where we're at. That's where we're at with the Oilers. Next game is Thursday, is it? Against next game
Columbus.
up. Oh no,
Columbus.
Yeah, Columbus, Thursday, 7 p.m. Mountain, and then
Seattle Sunday.
Seattle Sunday, maybe
or Saturday. Pardon me. Seattle Saturday.
My birthday, by the way. So I
nice.
expect all those birthday wishes to be coming my way. So we'll be back next Tuesday, the 21st, for our Christmas episode. And that's right before the Oilers go on a little bit of a road trip, and not long before the Oilers get to play Calgary. Always looking forward to Battle of Alberta. All right, Dash, you get the last word. When you're done, you know what to do. Everybody else, have a great night. Michael, out of here. Go ahead.
Big thanks to Heavy Hockey's heavy hitter, Michael Hebert, for having me on. The handsome Haligonian Hulk he is. I appreciate being on the show. Thanks to Shannon. Thanks to Rob. Thanks to Lars. Love the comments. Love the interaction. You know what? We're all Oilers fans. This is an Oilers fan podcast. And we have the right to be frustrated right now. We have the right to be upset. We have the right to be, disappointed in our team's effort lately. But I don't think it's panic button time yet. We're okay. This is 16-11. We've had a weird, flow of our ups and downs, and peaks and valleys so far, but maybe we'll learn something from it. Let's hope Schmitty gets us off the schneid when he comes back. Looking forward to seeing how they do over the weekend. And just once again, thanks for having me on. It's always an honor to be on here with you, buddy. Good night, everybody. Go Oilers, go.
Oilerslive